How is the Quran important in the everyday life of Muslims? So Muslims are to read and melodically recite the Quran regularly. Many Muslims will read it on a daily basis and practice memorize chapters on a daily basis. And Muslims will try to recite it in a way that is accurate to the pronunciation and the rules of pronunciation for an elegant pronunciation of the Quran to make it faithful to the what is seen as the foundational Quran that was revealed by Muhammad. However, in more popular practices, those who have a beautiful voice and can recite the Quran in with beautiful melodies are greatly celebrated, and there's competitions that take place to see who has the most beautiful recitation. Some of these competitions focus more on the beauty of the melody, others focus on more the precision of the pronunciation, along with beauty of recitation. So Muslims will memorize and study the Quran from a young age. In fact, many Muslim families, from the time a child can begin to really talk, maybe 2 or 3 years old, the child will be taught short chapters of the Quran and be helped to memorize those short chapters, so much that it's not uncommon that by the age of 8 or 9, a child might be a hafiz, which is someone who has memorized the Quran completely from beginning to end, the entire 114 chapters. Those who are not reciting it themselves but are listening to it are to listen to the Quran reverently according to ideals of Islamic piety. And it is said that those who are so moved that they begin to cry, that tears are shed from their eyes, is a sign of the piety and reverence that that person holds for the words from God. In popular culture, you also hear everyday expressions taken from the Quran used. So, for example, if someone wants to express gratitude about what's happening in their lives, they may say Alhamdulillah, which means praise be to God. Or if they want to express admiration for what someone has done or acknowledgement of someone who's done something well, they may use a line from the Quran, MashaAllah, which literally means what God wills. So God has willed that this person has that talent or is be able to express that talent or do a great thing. This is the way to indirectly express praise for a person by expressing praise for the God or being that gave that person that gifts and abilities. Or someone might say, Insha'Allah, if they're going to meet their friend at some place, if God wills, it means, so I'll see you at this time, at this place, inshallah, acknowledging the dependency of one in every of one for anything and everything that happens upon the will of God. Muslims might also, although it's somewhat of a controversial practice, quotes from the Quran might be put on amulets, and so these are maybe jewelry or necklace or bracelets, and a short quote might be put on it directly or a paper put inside the necklace. And this is seen to empower and give baraka or spiritual power to the object, to protect one, to be kind of to bless one's life with good luck. In addition, everyday objects may be given or inscribed with quotes from the Quran. For example, a lamp might be given a famous quote on the light of God. That's a very popular quote from the Quran. Or a shield, such as an armor shield, might be inscribed with a prayer for protection that's taken from the Quran. Or a comb might be inscribed with a quote that speaks of the beauty of God. Now, tafsir is the art and science of interpreting the Quran. Muslims have been interpreting the Quran from the days of Muhammad and trying to understand it. The oldest commentaries that we have today, that are full-on complete commentaries, go back to about 150 years after the time of Muhammad. But even if you're not a professional interpreting the Quran, you do your best to understand the ideas and concepts and ideals and apply them to your everyday life through applying one's abilities of comprehension, understanding, and reasoning. The scholarly books that have been written as commentaries on the Quran have been based on various sources. One is hadith literature, which indicates the occasions of revelation, asbab al-nazul in the Arabic, in which says, oh, Muhammad was doing this at this time when he revealed this verses or set of verses of the Quran. This was going on in his life, and to try to provide some context, understanding of why that particular idea would be revealed at all, even though any Quranic verse is also seen as having universal implications and not just on that particular historical context in which it was revealed. Commentaries would also use literature from the Bible to try to expand and amplify the different events, as the Quran often talks about various prophets and that are also spoken about in the Bible, to try to give further understanding what that event is and what was going on. Not just the Bible, but commentaries on the Bible that have been prevalent among the Jewish rabbinical tradition. And as some Jews converted to Islam, they'd bring these stories with them and pass them on, or sometimes just through friendships, interreligious friendships, these stories would be learned, and this would amplify an understanding of different parts of the Quran. And then just using one's aql, or abilities to reason, okay, that the person would try to understand what that Arabic verse is talking about in more plain everyday language, and apply this power of reasoning to interpret it. The most famous and most popular and most central of the 114 surahs or chapters of the Quran is the very first surah. This is called al-Fatiha, which means the opening, and very apropos since it begins and opens the entirety of the Quran. And Muslims will recite al-Fatiha at least once in every one of their 5 daily obligatory prayers. Al-Fatiha is also often recited in different gatherings, whether it's a wedding or a funeral or some other celebration, to give it a religious sort of character to that gathering. Al-Fatiha has been commented upon as containing the entirety of the Quran in microcosm or concentrated form, and thousands of commentaries have been written on this chapter alone. It is usually the first chapter that is memorized by children. Later they'll memorize other chapters in the back of the Quran, the shorter chapters of the Quran. So let's look at it very briefly. So the chapter begins with the words Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, which literally means in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. Now these words, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, begins every chapter of the Quran except for one. So 113 of the 114 chapters begin with these words of grace and mercy. In fact, Rahman, Rahim, these are the most emphasized attributes or perfections of God emphasized within the Quran. So then it goes, so Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, which is usually translated as all praise is to God, Lord of the worlds. Al-Alameen literally means all that can be known or all that exists. So God is the Lord of all of them. This word Arab is not just Lord, but is connected with the Hebrew word, which comes out as the word rabbi, right? The learned Jew in the scriptures who teaches it to others, but who also might nurture a congregation. This word Rab then has this sort of pastoral meaning, someone who nurtures all life and takes care of all life. and not just domineering or commanding sort of Lord. And then it repeats these words, the most gracious, the most merciful, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Then Maliki Yawmiddin, the master, or sometimes translated as the king of the day of judgment. Sometimes day of judgment is translated as day of reckoning, okay, the day in which each one will be judged or evaluated the content of their faith and life after they die. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. Okay, so all one's affections, all one's attentions, all one's priorities, as well as one's sense of dependence upon the world, all focus upon this one being. And then it has this prayerful supplication. Ittina sirat al-mustaqim. Guide us to the straight path. The path of God is straight and narrow and very easy to fall off on. One supplicates to be able to walk on it in a straight way. Sirat al-ladhin an'amta alayhim. The path of those whom you have bestowed favor. Ghairi al-maghdubi alayhim. Not those who have incurred your anger. Wala dalin. Nor of those who are astray or have gone astray. So this straight path is the one in which God bestows upon people his favor, rather than the path in which one incurs or receives God's anger. The path of those who have gone astray. Okay, so I'll recite it just in the Arabic so you can hear, even though my Quranic pronunciation and chanting isn't the most beautiful in the world, you can look up, and I'll try to provide some links for beautiful chants of al-Fatiha, Surah al-Fatiha, but you can hear at least some of the rhythmic as well as rhyming qualities of it through my attempt at this recitation. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ittina sirat al-mustaqim, sirat al-ladhin an'amta alayhim, ghairi al-maghdubi alayhim, wala dalin. So you can hear some of these sounds of een and eem that this focus on. So you have Rahim, then Alamin, Rahim, Adin, Nasta'in, El Mustaqim, Alayhim, Dalin. This sound and the sort of the rhyming aspects of this Quranic chapter, even though Muslims insist that this is the Quran, this is unique, this is distinguished from poetry or music or song. The Word of God is on a level and status of its very own. Nonetheless, we can say, as outsiders, perhaps that the Quran has poetic aspects to it.